Today on Locked On Red Wings, we know all about how the Red Wings can find those diamond in the roughs in the late rounds. But who in Detroit history is the biggest draft bust?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a producer over at 97 on the Ticket, while Scotty is the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Scotty, so we're sitting here and we're talking and we're like, man, what would be a good Monday episode? What would make a really interesting Monday episode? We're talking like, well, we just did playoffs and, talking about what's made those teams successful. And I do think it does warrant further down the line, like a deeper conversation about the individual teams themselves. But we wanted to change it up a bit because we felt like it'd be like retreading old ground. And so we decided to go with a more of a fun, looser topic to start the week off. And I don't know. It's talking about the biggest draft busts, a fun, loose topic. It's an interesting topic.
Yes. No, it is. I don't care what anybody
We're
says.
gonna clown. No.
That is a fun, objectively a fun thing to talk about. I don't care what anybody says. That is absolutely a fun thing to talk about.
And so that's where we're going to be today. But before we get to that, I got to ask you, Scotty, have you been watching? Did you watch either of the games this past weekend for the Eastern and Western Conference Finals?
Yeah.
Insane. What Evander Kane, first of all, what Evander Kane did to Nazem Kadri was absolutely warranted a suspension. And I love the Athletic. I don't know if they did it on accident. Well, yeah, for sure. I don't know whether or not the Athletic did this on purpose, but they said he got suspended for one game. And then like the subtitle was like suspended the rest of the conference finals. I don't know if they shot themselves in the foot or if that was an accident, but Colorado.
That's kind of funny.
No, and like what's really interesting too is, we talked a little bit about it, when the Colorado was up, 1-0, 2-0. It really shows you the difference in the depths of these roster. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and admittedly Evander Kane, pretty much that one line has single-handedly hauled the Edmonton Oilers to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah.
But this is the first time they've faced a team as complete as the Colorado Avalanche, who also have their own superstars in Nathan MacKinnon. And of course, Cal McCarr on the back end.
Right.
So you're faced with a team that's just super complete, and now you finally see like, okay, one player cannot do it all. Now, granted, as we were sitting here record this, series isn't over with by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also very validating for me, who's been on the anti-Edmonton train. I'm not on the anti-Connor McDavid train. I love Connor McDavid, but I'm very against how they've built the team around him. I think that they've done a horrible job building the team around him, and I don't want them to feel. You're paying $5 million to Duncan Keith, who's 39 years old. It's a very Ken Holland move to go out and sign a veteran who's 6 years past his prime because he was good once, and then pay him $5 million. $5 million is the Ken Holland staple. He gave 4.75 to 7 years to Justin Applicator. He gave $5 million a year to Danny DeKaiser. I think he gave $5 million a year to Franz Nielsen. He gave five by five to Darren Helm. Like, it's just the Ken Holland. He's like $5 million. $5 million. He signed Mike Smith at 40 years old. I don't need to go down. I've gone down this rabbit hole so many times.
The goalie situation is crazy. Like, people are literally looking around. Like, the casual hockey fans are literally looking around. Like, there's no way that they just keep throwing this 40-year-old dude out here, right? There's no way that they just keep doing
as their backup, right? Like, he's not horrible.
Yeah.
He's a good, pretty decent backup.
No, I literally have one of my buddies like doesn't watch hockey at all, and he's like, "Are they really going with Smith again?" But he was just like betting on the game and was like casually watching it just for fun because it's a crazy good sporting event going on. Yeah, he's usually a basketball dude. And he was like, "Is this seriously? Are they just going to keep going to this Smith guy? He's 40." I was like, "Yeah, dude. Like that's it. Like that's like the whole thing with their team is they kind of have to." And And they every single year they have a hole in net and they refuse to address it. And they would rather give money to 40-year-old non-goalies and 40-year-old goalies, I guess.
Well, it's not like there weren't
It's
any goalies in the
remarkable.
free agency market this past offseason. They could have upgraded at some degree, and they just went
Yeah.
back to the 40-year-old. And it blows my
They
mind.
could have given us a decent prospect for Bernier last deadline too.
I mean, that's actually a really good point, though, too. I mean, even in the offseason, Carolina traded for the rights for Bernier, and they didn't even need him.
How about us? We got rid of a 3rd-round pick for Ned.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? The Oilers went, no, we don't want any of that. We're good on 40-year-old Mike Smith, actually.
Twice his age. And this isn't Mike Smith slander. He's had a pretty nice career
No,
for
he's had a
himself
nice
as a French
career,
starter,
and
but
I wish to do nothing but the best. He had an
Ken
incredible
Holland slander is what it is.
Right, he had an incredible performance in that Game 7. Like he's had, like he's been fine. He's been all right, but it's just like what are we doing, man? Like what? It's unbelievable to me, actually.
Well, then the Eastern Conference, you have obviously the Rangers and the Lightning. And the Lightning, it just genuinely feels like they're feeling the fatigue of back-to-back cups with like no offseason because they're trying to like get the seasons back on track. And they seem so much. Obviously, they won on Sunday, make it 2-1 in the series, but often Nikita Kucherov doing Nikita Kucherov things with that amazing pass with like 2 seconds left, or like I think it was like actually like 45. But regardless, it's just it was just. This New York team is, I feel like I don't want to call them the Cinderella story of this playoffs because they're definitely they're a pretty well-rounded team. But I
don't think anybody going into the season expected them to be where they are now.
Yeah,
this was like a step year, right? Like this was like this is a young team. They do have some expiring deals, but like this is a young team with like a good farm, and like this could be like a really big step forward year for them. And then like I think most people are thinking next year was the year they make a playoff push, and here they are.
Well, what's the craziest thing about them too, and my buddy pointed this out to me on before our game today, is what makes New York so interesting is they've gotten incredible draft luck.
Yeah,
they got the first, they jumped up from like 10th to 2 1 year to get Capo Caco, and then like there was the next year, the year after that, they got Lafreniere at number 1 overall.
The Laffy lottery, yeah.
So I mean, but those two guys who are extremely talented haven't really been the difference makers. They've been fine, but they haven't been like number 1,
hasn't been anything like crazy dynamic or like special or anything. No,
the difference makers are the guys that they got who are like 27, 28, and Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, who had like a 50-goal season. Those are guys that
Kreider had an amazing year.
Yeah, guys they acquired to be their core years ago. And like I feel like when you look at the New York Rangers, and this is starting to get down to what I wanted to talk about, that I should probably not get too deep into for when we want to talk about that yet. But like I feel like the Rangers probably have the most realistic expectations for a rebuilding team for the Red Wings. Obviously, they've been riding a really hot goaltender. I mean, Shesterkin's going to easily win the Vezina this year, although Vasilevsky definitely deserves it again because he's a freak.
Yeah, that's such a good. If you're a goalie fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have Adam Fox, they got Jacob Trouba, they got Zibanejad, Kreider, Lafreniere, and Capo Caco. And, obviously those two guys, you need draft luck, and the Red Wings haven't necessarily had that, but they've gotten great players through the draft. And they already have their Zibanejad and Kreider, maybe not, to a T, but, with your Larkin and Bertuzzi, you hope. So, I mean, that's why I think that maybe they're probably the most realistic. But that's getting into a whole different topic. The point being is the conference finals have been really exciting. And I've been, like, just heavily enjoying the playoffs. And I hope it's a Colorado Rangers final to give us something unique, I feel like.
Yeah, I think outside of a McDavid Cup, I think I agree with that. It would definitely be two like really deep, like really, really deep teams that can run forever as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. I guess that'd be fine by me. Like I said, sans a McDavid ring, that seems fine.
Completely agree. Before we get into the biggest draft busts, which we've successfully put off for an entire segment because we started talking playoffs so much, but here we are. I got to talk to you guys today about Athletic Greens. Our next partner is a product you guys got to use literally every day. You got to start taking AG1 because there's just a huge source of all your probiotics. It's a superfood stuff. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, there's that mouthful, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything while still tasting good. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine all on your own. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment 2, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are going to get into our biggest draft busts in recent Red Wings history. Let's say recent Red Wings history, because you and I we're not going to know guys from like the 70s. That's just not happening, peeps.
Well, like the players that played for those teams, I'm fine with, but like I don't know who was good in college hockey in 1968.
Right.
Like that's the part where like you're a little that's over my head, admittedly. But like the labeling who is an actual bust outside of just looking at a piece of paper would be difficult.
It's really hard at that time.
Yeah, but I mean, we certainly can do the last 20, 30 years because and look, there is like I'm a Pistons fan. Like this is right up Detroit Pistons alley, right? Like the Pistons are, in my opinion, like a bottom 3 drafting team in the history of the NBA. So like there's certainly worse situations out there in sports for draft busts. Doing this in baseball is my favorite thing because they're so frequent at like for every team, no matter what, just because baseball is crazy like that.
Baseball drafts are just you're just throwing crap at the wall.
Yeah, especially after like the 3rd round, it really is, and like who signs and who doesn't and all that. You have to be promoted 5 different times to make the majors. Like it's crazy, right? So like it's really hard to find that. But the Red Wings is interesting because we have like you said in the cold open, like we have so many draft picks that we found in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round that turned out to be great hockey players.
I mean, the obvious guys, Datsuk and Zetterberg, of course.
Right. And it's so fascinating to see that, but then also look at some top picks that kind of became nothing. And honestly, I think more so than anything, even if we don't like focus in or whatever, even if there aren't too many like true busts, I mean, just having a conversation about some of these dudes is just fun because it's been a while since we talked about some of them.
Well, it's really interesting too because I feel like we have to like kind of anyone outside the 2nd round you can't really consider a bust because if they make it to the NHL 3rd round or later, it's kind of a success at that point. I feel like you have to keep your
hear me out. AA.
Andreas Athanasiou, we're getting right into the controversial ones.
Well, you said anyone drafted outside of the top 2 rounds couldn't be a pick. He was a 4th rounder.
He was a 4th rounder who's kind of had a decent career for himself.
I agree. In the scheme of his entire career, he is certainly like not a bust for a 4th round draft pick. Like no, Red Wings career,
maybe because there's a lot of hype around him and he had a 30-goal season and then he fizzled out.
Right. I guess that's maybe more of our flash in the pan thing that we did a couple of weeks ago than a draft bust.
Well, because you look in that same draft, the 2012 draft, in the 2nd round, you took Martin Frk. And we all know.
Didn't have a 1st rounder this year?
They didn't have a 1st rounder in the 2012 entry draft. That was still when they were trying to win. So, win now teams tend to just steal those away.
Screw it.
He's only
them picks.
He's down in the Kings minor league system. Still a rocket of a shot. I think it's the fastest in professional hockey. But 124 games played so far, 20 goals, 20 assists. He's definitely 2nd round pick That's a draft bust. That, in my opinion, that is 100% a draft bust. I think even more so. You go back to the 2008 first round, 30th overall. You took Tom McCollum, goaltender out of Guelph Storm.
Yeah, that was
OHL.
that was my boy for a little bit. I was a big believer and a big fan when I was in 5th and 6th grade.
Yeah, 3 games played in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
How about
not even a flash in that pan? He busted before he made it to the NHL level.
Right, exactly. How about give me a bust percentage on Riley Sheehan?
Ooh, that is a good one. Okay, so he was taking
that's a first round pick whose career
21st.
high in points in a season was 36.
That's a really tough one. I
but
don't
also
think I can,
played 82 games for pretty much 3-4 years straight. Provided like nice depth minutes, but certainly never reached the heights of a first round pick. Now, late first rounder, but
yeah,
first
that's
round
where
pick.
the stipulation is, and he's also played 635 NHL games. He's had a
certainly carved out a very, very nice career
like,
for himself.
Definitely not the top line center you would hope he would be. But he also came out of the CCHA, Notre Dame.
Also,
Notre Dame
like
being a great college hockey
first
team.
overall. Like, are we
It's
really
hard
going to
to-
be like, oh, like the guy who's taken outside of the top 20 is like a huge bust?
If he played like 3 games, I'd be like, yeah, bust. Like if he
Right.
barely, but he's carved out a nice NHL career.
Becoming a nice depth center, depth forward for the better part of a decade. I think he played games for the Kraken this year.
Yeah, no, he's big.
Yeah.
He's an everyday NHL player. He's
Right.
not bad.
So yeah, I would say I would say that is low bust percentage. 21st overall pick. If you would have said on draft night, hey, this dude that you're going to take 21 overall while you are still trying to win is going to be a nice depth forward that plays for well over a decade. Maybe well over is a stretch. Over a decade. I think you go, okay, I'll take that at 21 overall.
Because at that point in the first round, isn't that what you're drafting for? A guy who could be an everyday NHL player, and that's what
I think that's I wasn't bringing him up to say he is a bust. I was bringing him up to just have a conversation. I think that that's a low bust percentage. Low bust percentage.
How about the 2011 entry level draft though? No first round pick that year, but you had 3 second round picks. The Detroit Red Wings had 3 second round picks, in which pick 35 they took Tomas Jurco. Pick 48, they took Xavier Roulette. And pick 55, they took Ryan Sproul, all in the second round. And if I'm correct, after Jurco, I believe Nikita Kucherov was taken after all 3 of those. He was taken in the second round in that span. And the Red Wings had at least two chances at getting Nikita Kucherov. Let me double check on when Nikita Kucherov was taken. But in that draft, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but you took 3 guys, all of which are out of the NHL.
That's
Nikita
tough,
Kucherov is
one
of the best players.
Sproul had 12 career points at the NHL level.
Kucherov was taken 58th overall in that draft. So he
after all of them.
He came after all 3 of those guys in the second round.
Career points 28 for Ouellette. And man, Tomas Jurco, man, holy cow!
That's a guy. I remember his first game. I think we called him a flash in the pan too.
Yeah,
he's the bustiest of them all.
Yeah, that's that man. Golly, man, that's so wild because like that's a name that
you watch his like YouTube highlights of him just stick handling. You think he's going to be a superstar.
Yeah, like people talked about Tomas Jurco. Like people talked about him. Like he was not just some like, oh, this dude, was a second round pick. Let's like hope we get something out of him. Like at one point in his development, he was talked about as like a dude.
I completely I remember his first goal against the Anaheim Ducks in his first game up, and it was just a highlight reel goal, and it's like, oh, the Tomas Jurco era is here,
right?
And then he just completely fizzled out into nothing. Because the problem is he couldn't think the game at the NHL level. Like his mind couldn't keep up, and so he was always out of position, and he didn't play any defense, and that's just like at the AHL level he could get away with covering up his shortcomings, but not at the NHL level. He just didn't have it. Man, that draft was rough. That 2011 NHL draft.
Okay, how about Svetchnikov?
Evgeny Svetchnikov, oh, absolutely bust. 19th overall, 113 games played, 31 points. I would absolutely consider that a bust because you took him in the top 20.
See, but the wild part is like this year in Winnipeg, I mean, he had 19 points in 72 games. Like it wasn't like he was good, but like his career high in points for the Wings was 8. So like him getting 19, and he also his career high in games played for us was 21. So it's not like we really gave much of a shot, but he was
very much a Robbie Fabry situation where like he was injured so frequently that eventually he was kind of just pushed out of the lineup. Like he lost his roster spot because other players were healthy and could play. Like last season,
only 25, man. That's crazy.
I was so high. I was so high in Evgeny Svetchnikov. I thought he was going to be
a lot of people were, man. It's so wild. Like I would have told you he was like 28. Like the fact that he's only 25 is crazy to me.
How did I don't even know how. So obviously in 2014, the Red Wings took Dylan Larkin 15th overall. Red Wings are still in the playoffs at that point. How did they get the 15th overall pick? I don't even remember. Man, that's crazy. Oh God, 2016, first round pick, 20th overall, Dennis Chilowski, absolute bust. Bust percentage, fucking powered through.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I'd say it's a pretty high bust percentage. Actually, this is a not a bad draft though. You get Giovanni Smith and Philip Hronek both in the second.
Yeah, one of which is an everyday NHL player for the Red Wings. But dude, Dennis Chilowski is another one. I mean, he came up and he's a flash in the pan player as well. Like
both,
he came up, he was scoring goals, and you thought he was going to be like an offensive defenseman, and then he just like stopped scoring goals and couldn't play defense. And then you let him go in the expansion draft. He gets on waivers, gets claimed by Washington, gets put back on waivers, gets claimed back by Seattle. I mean, he's for a guy who was taken 20th overall, absolutely in the bust conversation, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think so too. How about man? There's a lot of interesting names on here.
Yeah. Guys we were high on, but it's hard to call them busts because they never really like panned out as prospects in the first place. So
you remember Lando?
Landon Ferraro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He played a couple games.
I mean, like that's a second round pick, but at the same time, like barely a second round pick. He was taking 32. So like in today's NHL, he would have actually been a first round pick if there was the amount of teams back then that there were now.
Yeah, for sure.
So like a makeshift first round pick. But one of the top picks of the second round, and certainly was not much. Career point total at 12. I was played in the DEL for the last 4 years now.
Wow, really? That's where he's gone to now.
Yeah, he's not even. His last NHL game, he played 2 games for the Minnesota Wild in 2017. Then played 12 games for the Iowa Wild in 2018-19. And then literally since the start of 2019 has been in the DEL, yeah.
Although that draft is pretty solid in terms
of that's so like on paper, a second round pick not turning out isn't like that uncommon.
They had all but
it just becomes really weird when you have like TT's right behind him, right? Like Tatar's taken in the second round, even
60th right overall. There. He was the one.
Obviously, is a huge success story out of a second round pick. It's just super interesting. Super interesting.
You know what else is interesting?
Built Bar?
No, BetOnline. You failed. What a failure. Oh, I'm embarrassed. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, and Major League Baseball. And, of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline. Where the game starts. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast is Scotty and
Jacob Kindle.
Jakob Kindle?
Jakob. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He's busting all over the place.
That's a crazy one too, because Abby got taken that draft, and Darren Hellman the 5th was 05. Oh yeah.
It's another one where like he played 331 NHL games, but never really got off the bottom pair with the Red Wings. So like, yeah, he had a decently long NHL career. Jakob
Yeah,
Kindl.
I mean, like his career high in points in a season for any of the teams he played for was us, and it was 19.
Yeah, and you took him 19th overall in 2005.
He had
So, like,
74 career points in 331 games.
I would definitely consider him a bust, but he's definitely he's teetering on that edge because he did play over 300 NHL games. Like he
For
wasn't the
sure, and like I
mainstay,
mean,
but he just
19th
was a bottom
overall,
pair.
like whatever, but
You don't take a guy in the first round to be a bottom pair defenseman, though. That's the problem.
correct. Yeah, I mean, like yeah, I guess points isn't like super fair for like defensemen either, but at the same time, um, I don't know, man.
I don't know. That Jimmy Howard guy was a bust. 543 games played and only 9 points. Heesh. How is he out
That's
there
my
every day?
point. Like I don't like using points too much to
Validate.
yeah, to analyze like defensemen, but at the same time, like that's very clearly a bottom player defenseman that you took in the top 20 in the
You know
NHL
what?
draft.
I'm gonna veer a little bit because I just saw somebody and I want to put respect on this person's name.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Ericsson was taken in the
Never
9th
forget.
round of the 2002 entry level draft. 9th round. There used to be 9 rounds, guys. He was
Yeah.
the last guy taken. He ended up playing
Never forget the
680
dog.
career games with the Detroit Red Wings. People gave Big E a lot of crap, and some of it justified because he wasn't necessarily. Sometimes he was a giant pylon, and he didn't use his size very well for how big he was. But taking being the last guy taken in the NHL draft in the 9th round, and then finding your way to nearly 700 career games and being a mainstay on the defensive core when the team was good, mind you. Like this is when the Red Wings, if he played on the current Red Wings, he'd be a top pair defenseman. He'd be right there with
Yeah, he would. Oh, I mean, yeah, he would. Yeah, he would.
So he was taking smack talk back when the Detroit Red Wings were good because he was quote unquote the worst defenseman on the team. He was taken in the 9th round. It was a mainstay on that defensive core that was stacked during the Stanley Cup era. I feel like people don't look fondly on the Jonathan Ericsson era. Also, I believe at one point he transitioned from forward to defense. I might be making that part up. I'd have to double check my facts on that one. It might have been like before he was professional that he transitioned from forward to defense. But for the fact that he was taken last in the draft, the expectations for that is like if you play in America at all at the AHL or ECHL, it's like success.
For sure.
Mainstay is amazing. I want to put respect on Jonathan Ericsson's name because I just noticed him on here.
No, I like that.
Negative bust.
Negative bust percentage. Negative. I do think it's also funny. Like you very tell win now mode 1999 when we did take Z in the 7th. Did our first pick in the draft was the 4th round.
Yeah, you can tell it's win now mode.
First pick was 120 overall, where we took a man by the name of Jari Tulsa, who did not even play an AHL game, nonetheless an NHL game ever in his career. Played in the SEL for like 20 years though. Like 15, 16 years. Went over to the SEL in 99 and played for Frölunda. And then retired after the 13-14 season when he played in the Austria Hockey League. So,
I'm looking at a lot of these.
I mean, it's funny because I was like, oh, like that's a pretty terrible first pick of the draft. And then I'm like, oh, wait, it was the 4th round.
Yeah, there's like 3 draft picks that round. It's funny. You go back into the 90s and it was so much more hit and miss. Like you get guys, the 1991 entry level draft was stacked. You took Martin Lapointe, who had 991 games played. Jamie Pusher, 521.
It's so tough to label any of these guys as like true, like terrible bust. Just because.
Oh, I'm not calling any of these guys bust. I'm looking at the 90s and being like, wow.
No. I'm talking about this whole thing. Like all of our picks before 2015, before 2017, before 2017 are like 20th or later.
We're
it's
getting
hard
like
to even be like, oh, like this is a huge myth. It's like it was the 28th dude taken. Like I don't know. Like
man, the Red Wings, like it's crazy. It's like either feast or famine in some of these drafts with how like deep the pool is, or how I don't know if it comes down to scouting, but like obviously everyone knows how like absolutely stacked the Red Wings draft in 1989 was. Like that was the Red Wings draft. I mean that they took Mike Sillinger, who played over 1,000 games. Bob Bogner, who played 630. Nicholas Lidstrom, who obviously the perfect human. Sergei Fedorov. I mean, that's your first, second, third, fourth round pick, all of which played over 500, 3 of which played over 1,000.
That's actually crazy.
And then Sean McCosh, you took in the 5th round. He had 9 games played. And then Dallas Drake, you took in the 6th round.
Man.
1,000 games played. You don't get another guy who played an NHL game until the 11th.
Shout out Dallas Drake.
Came back and won a cup in 08. But Vladimir Konstantinov was your 11th round pick in 1989.
Wow, yeah.
So you took Vladdy, and everyone knows this if you're a Red Wings fan, but it's just crazy to look at that draft. You took Konstantinov, you took Dallas Drake, Sergei Fedorov, and Nicholas Lidstrom, and of course Mike Sillinger, all in that draft. It's just like what a freaking draft. Obviously, Mike Sillinger only played, a handful of seasons in the Red Wings. I think 5 total before bouncing around the league, but over 1,000 games played is pretty insane.
Yes, it is. No, it certainly is.
We've totally gotten off our bus topic though. Now we're just
we were just like, it's fun to just kind of draft pick watch. Like there is some fun in that, and just look at like all over these draft classes.
You want to talk about a draft that was just famine though? 1996, their first round pick Jesse Wallen played 49 games played, and every single other player taken in that draft, rounds 2 through 9, did not play at the NHL level. That's a famine.
Philip Zadina, end the show.
wait.